a lot of the equipment. So that just goes to show you how difficult and how tough this rivalry is in terms of trying to get an edge to win.
Keyshawn, speaking of this year, we have a number on the screen that Notre Dame is given a 78% chance of winning. If I had told you that 2 months ago when SC was riding high, would you have believed it?
I don't believe it now. I think it's a situation where a lot of the country really resent USC. It's a lot of resentment against USC, and I don't know why that is. It's almost like an East Coast bias type situation that goes on historically when it comes to USC. We have to do way more than any other college program except maybe Alabama to get the necessary respect from opponents across the country, because we've been so good and dominant at times in the past that no matter what they say about us, we can be good, but people will say we're not. Now, look, did we come out of the gate with a lot of hype and number one this and number one that? Of course we did. Of course we did. Have we won games this year? Yes. The one game that we lost is on the road on a Friday night against an undefeated Washington State team that, quite frankly, is a pretty good football team. And no matter what the records show, going up there on a Friday night is always tough to play at Washington State. So, you struggle against a Texas team that's better. You won the game. You struggled against a Western Michigan team. You won the game. You beat a Stanford team that's playing better. You won that game. You beat a Utah team that most people would say is pretty doggone good. So I don't know why there's this feel in the air that we're not a good football team.
Well, I think, Keyshawn, some of it has to do with Sam Darnold. Before the season, everyone expected him just to go ahead and skip the first 12 games and go to New York and get the Heisman. And he's had some issues. I know how you feel about him, and I want you to share with the audience what you think he's doing right and why do you think he's had some struggles.
Well, I think, number one, Paul, in terms of the struggles first, I think he started off the season pressing because of the immaturity of himself, the lack of playing experience. He set the world on fire in a 9-game clip, or better yet, he played 9 games. Let's say he set the world on fire in a 5-game clip, but a really good second half against Penn State. He brought us back. All of the hype started to roll. Then the pressure mounted with the Heisman talk. Then the number 1 overall draft pick talk. And then all of a sudden, you come out the gate and you struggle a little bit, and now people are starting to question what it is that you're doing wrong. Well, when I look at what he's been able to do right is win games. What he's done wrong is at times he's pressing. He's trying to put too much pressure of winning on his back, not utilizing all of his weapons at times. Missing Juju Smith-Schuster, missing Darius Rogers on the outside. It took time to find a young guy like Tyler Vaughn, who's a redshirt freshman. Deontay Burnett is an inside slot guy. Stephen Mitchell is a fifth-year senior coming off 2 ACL surgeries. So in trying to get in sync with all of these guys, a young offensive line that's been kind of mixed-matched together, a freshman running back in Stephen Carr, no real tight end. Uma Bebe has been in and out of the lineup. So when you look at all of that, that's a lot for a young quarterback to try to absorb and win football games. But at the end of the day, his record is still 5-1. With all that being said, he's still 5-1. I mean, I think he got 7 interceptions. When I look at the all 22, half of those are his fault. Half of them are drop balls, tip balls by receivers.
Well, actually he has 9, but who's counting? Let's go to the other.
9? Okay. 9. For some reason, I thought it was 7. So 9, you cut those in half. There's a play in a Texas game. Jalen Green's going on a shallow cross across the middle. He tips the ball in the air. The guy picks the ball off the bottom of the grass, off the needle of the grass to get an interception. He barely got it, and obviously it's a credit to Sam because it was an interception. But that wasn't his fault. But he gets the credit for it. And I'm a homer, but I'm also a guy that's realistic. I'm also a guy who's realistic, and I am an SC homer. It's not all his fault. I'll be the first to tell you if it was his fault.
I understand, and that's fair. I mean, that's your school. Let me flip to the other side. Brandon Winbush, the quarterback at Notre Dame. What do you see in him, and does he have enough to lift his team to a win Saturday night?
again, much like Washington State, South Bend, Indiana is a tough place to play in. I think in terms of Wimbush, one of the things that you have to be able to do is you have to make him one-dimensional and neutralize him and force him to beat you with his arm. If he beats you with his arm, God bless him. Good job. You got to protect him running the football. Guys like Notre and Nwosu, they can't get so caught up in rushing to get a sack because you're probably not going to get a sack on a guy that moves around in the pocket. So he never sets his feet to throw the football. So one of the things you want to do is you want to force him, keep him inside, and force him to have to throw the ball. That's how you get an edge on him. You want to make sure that Equanimeous St. Brown, a guy from Southern California, doesn't go up top on Biggie Marshall or Jack Jones. You want to make sure to keep him in front of you at all times because he's had some pretty good deep ball games against USC in the past. And if you can neutralize the running game with them and just make them one-dimensional and pass the ball, then you got an opportunity to go into Notre Dame and what I would deem as people would call it an upset.
Final question. You sound pretty confident. We talked about this yesterday in SportsCenter. Why do you believe so much, forgetting your school ties, why do you believe so much that SC is going to pull off what would be considered a mild upset?
Well, I think when you look at it, this particular team, outside of the Washington State game, they've done well in terms of playing when people felt like that they were going to possibly lose the game. They've come back from behind when the games have been tight. They've figured out, as championship teams do, win late in games. They figure it out however that is. And I think this is a nationally televised game. It's a rivalry. Everybody knows what's on the table for this. If you lose this game, you can forget it. You'll be playing in like the Holiday Bowl again. But if you win, you keep your hopes alive and you control your own destiny. So with that being said, I believe that they have a lot to gain in this situation, and Notre Dame essentially has way more to lose.
Keyshawn, glad you finally made it to Broadway or the Finebaum show, whichever term you would like to use. We really appreciated your time. Hope you'll come back.
Yeah, I'm always welcome back, right?
Okay. After today, we'd like to make you a co-host, but I know you got a gig in L.A.
All right. Nice talking to you, Paul.
Thank you, Keyshawn. Always fun. Keyshawn and I are together every week, and we have a really fun time. Speaking of that, I tend to agree with him. I think the FBI may have this one a little out of whack in terms of Notre Dame. They're living off of a loss, frankly. In terms of wins, nice win at Michigan State, maybe a little better than I thought, but this game is going to define Notre Dame's season as well as the next couple because their schedule really gets difficult. So is there enough?
Now with Syracuse, follow up that win against Clemson, got to go to Miami to take on a top 10 Cane squad.
So is the U back. They certainly look like it. Saturday, Syracuse and Miami. That is 3:30 on Eastern time on ESPN. And Miami, a prohibitive favorite. Of course, Syracuse was not a favorite last week either, only 8%. 10 consecutive wins, all about the U. This is like yesteryear, 90s, all over again. What's going on with Mark Richt and his team? I really like Mark Richt. I think he's done a phenomenal job since getting fired at Georgia 2 years ago. He went to his alma mater. He has cleaned up a mess there that Stitch many of us thought would never go away, and he's on the precipice of something very, very big this year. I think as much as I love Dino Babers, one of my favorite coaches in the country, he is not going to pull the upset 2 weeks in a row. Meanwhile, yesterday, Rick Pitino broke his silence. It's been 3 weeks since he was fired. Actually, less time than that since he was officially fired, but 3 weeks since this story came out. Louisville has now fired his boss, Tom Jurich, as well, one of the best coaches in the country and one of the best athletic directors, and they are both gone. And yesterday, Rick Pitino sat down with Jay Billis for his first public comments.
The federal government is alleging that a Louisville assistant requested a payment from an Adidas representative to provide to a Louisville recruit. It was alleged to be $100,000. Did you know anything about that?
No. One of the toughest things you have to do, and I hope you never do it, is take a lie detector test. You have a blood pressure machine, you're wired up, and we're here for, did you have any knowledge of the Bowen family getting any money? Did you have any knowledge of an Adidas transaction? And I answered absolutely not on both questions and passed the lie detector test.
What kind of access did Jim Gatto or anyone from Adidas have to the basketball program by virtue of the contract?
Very little. They had very little, and I don't think they wanted access. A week before this broke, they were doing a whole testing area. They took a whole gymnasium and they were testing the shoes and using our players and showing it how it works. That was the first real interaction we've ever had with Adidas in terms of getting involved with their brand.
Why did you decide to file suit against Adidas now?
Well, they terminated me without a phone call, and that's not the reason. It's not revenge for that. I felt they're largely responsible for what has gone on, and they took my love and my passion away from me. Not all of them. There were other reasons, one being one of my coaches. They are responsible for their actions. As I take ownership for two hires, they must take ownership for what they did.
Do you feel comfortable that you will be clear of any charge coming your way in the future?
1,000%.
What was the most emotional time in this to date?
Speaking to the players.
Do you believe you will coach again?
I don't know. I'm not sure I want to. Don't know.
Why do you say you're not sure you want to?
Who knows what? You know, I'm just trying to concentrate on today, and I'm really not concerned about the future.
You know, as much as I want to believe Rick Pitino, it's simply not possible to believe him. First of all, when you're asked a direct question and your answer is, I passed a lie detector test, first of all, they're not applicable in a court of law. Nobody cares about a lie detector test, and that's Rick Pitino's best defense. Rick Pitino has never done anything wrong. That's why his program got lambasted by the NCAA. That's why it was brought down almost to shame with that scandal, the escort service scandal from a couple of years ago, the hooker scandal, to be more clear. He got in trouble years ago in an alleged relationship with someone other than his wife. That was a lawsuit. He never did anything. And now this. It's just sickening to watch Rick Pitino continue to obfuscate. I mean, I'm not asking him to tell the truth because he's got a lawsuit and he's in the middle of a litigation. But why give that interview? What was accomplished? Jay Billis looked perfectly normal, asking the right, appropriate questions, and Rick Pitino looked like a liar trying to obfuscate and change the subject and answer questions that weren't asked. But by now we should have come to expect that from Rick Pitino. DJ Shockley will be joining us next in studio. We'll get his take on the weekend. All of that coming up next.
He can pick up 20, 30, or take it to the house. Or you can throw it to him in the slot or out the backfield, and he can make a big play for you, or return it for a touchdown. That just adds to the dimension of an offense and also adds to what he can do physically. But he runs tough, he runs hard, and you can see him in the piece right there. He's a guy who you really want to root for, and such a humble kid, and only good things coming his way for sure.
Let me flip it over to the other side of this game. And when Harbaugh got there, we all expected such an offensive explosion. He hasn't gotten it. Some point to the quarterback position, pretty good place to start. Me asking a former quarterback, where are you on Harbaugh's offensive philosophy right now, and will he ever get it done there?
You hope he can. You know, he's one of those type of coaches that can recruit the best. Obviously, it hasn't worked out for him. Spate was a guy you thought when he started last year was going to be the savior for him, and then now you got O'Corn in there trying to right the ship. They just haven't gotten it done offensively, and I think it's a huge part of what's going on defense. Everybody gets a lot of credit for what they're doing defensively, but they have to do a better job of protecting the quarterback and then getting it outside to those playmakers. So it'll be maybe a couple years before Harbaugh is able to get that ideal guy he wants in there. But right now he's trying to make the most of what he has, and O'Corn is that guy for him right now.
Finally, JJ, you played in some pretty intimidating atmospheres in the SEC. But I wanted to ask you about the scene we're going to witness Saturday night, a whiteout Saturday night, one of the biggest games Penn State has had. It's hard to remember. This program was almost leveled a couple of years ago. Talk a little bit about what that does, not only to the home team, but to the visitor.
It's really intimidating. I'll be honest. It's one of those environments. As a player, I used to love going into environments like this where everybody was against you. But this whiteout, I've seen it on TV. I've talked to guys who played there. They say it's nothing like the environment that you have there in Penn State. And it's going to be one that Michigan is really going to have to be on their P's and Q's about. And I think they got to do a good job. We just talked about it with O'Corn, making sure that they can communicate well, especially offensively, because it's going to be loud. It's going to be one of those type of environments. And Penn State is a defense that leads the country in points, not giving up, in only 9 this season. So it's going to be they got to deal with that defense and the crowd noise and how electric of an environment it's going to be at night. It's going to be one of those games that you look forward to watching. And if you're a Michigan fan or a Michigan player, good luck.
Exactly. DJ, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for the time, as always. When we come back here, we're going to talk to that man right there. He knows a little bit about quarterbacks. He's produced some of the best we've seen in recent years, including Dak Prescott. Dan Mullen next.
It's not just a cop.
Ferguson, Edsel, yes to Miller. Touchdown. 2 wins over top 25 teams. Never been done before the same year for Memphis.
And the Memphis Tigers behind Riley Ferguson, another great quarterback in Memphis. This is becoming an every-year occurrence. The Tigers with wins over UCLA, Navy, ranked in the top 25 and on ESPN tonight in Houston. And we're joined by Mike Norvell. Coach, thanks so much. I know it's a busy time with the game a couple of hours away, but we appreciate it. Let's start about your thoughts. Not an easy place to play, not an easy team to go against. What do you have for tonight? You ready for this game?
Well, most definitely. Our guys are extremely excited, coming off a short week, but to have an opportunity to be on national television against, an opponent that we've had a great history against with quality games over the last, the last 3 years. Every game's come down to a one-score battle. So we know we've got our hands full tonight, but, our kids are excited about it.
Coach, I know you've been asked a million times about Riley Ferguson, but we'll ask you one more time because his play has just been spectacular. Your thoughts?
Riley's done a phenomenal job this year. He's a wonderful competitor. He's a young man that puts a great deal of time into his preparation, and I'm glad to see that that's definitely showing up on the field. And I think in the last 2 games he's had 10 touchdowns, no interceptions. Around our program is growing, and to be able to sustain that success, you really truly have to just focus on the next step that's in front of you. You continue to work to do things the right way, and we've been able to recruit at an extremely high level. We've had in our first 2 classes here, we've had the #1 recruiting class in school history both years, and that's showing up with the play from our young guys, and our veterans are continuing to elevate their game.
And I know there's some struggles and discomfort playing Thursday, Friday night games, but what is the residual of this for your program, being prime time tonight, standalone college football game?
It's great exposure for our players and for our community and everybody that we represent, and so our kids are excited. It is a quick turnaround. Coming off playing, a very physical and a really good Navy football team there Saturday. There wasn't a whole lot of time to celebrate that win. You had to focus in and get ready and start getting our preparation for this Houston squad. And so, our kids have done a great job with being able to put that game behind them. And all of our focus has been on being the best that we can be here this evening.
Coach, I know that there's a little bit of reward on the back end because you have the weekend off, but how do you do it? You just can't wait till Sunday morning, I presume, to get ready for this game. What goes into getting ready for a Thursday night game?
Right when the game was over against Navy, we immediately went to work. We graded that film and then started putting together how we were going to implement the corrections, and then also started studying Houston. And we both played there Saturday afternoon, so we were able to get the film. And you try to cram as much into a 4-day work week as possible, and making sure that our players got all the information that was relevant to being successful tonight. And you really got to stay true to who you are, and put your guys in the best position to be successful. I mean, you have some bumps and bruises that you have to get healed quicker, and so you got to do a good job of making sure that the schedule is something that's beneficial for the players as well.
Coach, on a day like today, it is a short, compressed week, but the game is tonight, and you have to treat it like a game day. So what's a normal routine for a Thursday night game with your team as well as you?
Well, we try to keep it as routine as possible. Playing on the road is adds another challenge to it. So yesterday we practiced before we left. Our guys when we got here, we went by the stadium. I tried to have our night before the game routine, and then today we had our morning walkthroughs. We'll have another set of meetings here before we head over to the stadium. But our guys, I love our pregame routine, and our guys are accustomed to knowing what to expect. And so we're trying to keep it as base as possible. But I know our guys are definitely itching to get over to the stadium here tonight.
Coach, appreciate your time. You're always gracious. Best wishes tonight. We'll all be watching.
Thank you so much, and go Tigers.
You got it. Well done, Coach Mike Norvell. Always gracious with his time. And we just have a couple of moments left. We'll have some final thoughts for this Thursday. Tomorrow we'll be live in Tuscaloosa. We're coming right back.
After keep.
You can flip it over in a couple of minutes. Finebaum Show, 3 p.m. We're still in Nashville, and our first guest will be the reigning national championship coach, Dawn Staley. She's also going to be the Olympic coach.
Finebaum's final thought.
And we're now to that point in the college football season where everything is critical. We're under 10 days before we get the first college football poll, and certainly Penn State with a win Saturday night puts itself in a position to then, guess what, go to Ohio State the next week. The schedule is very difficult, but it's all in front of them, and they certainly control their own destiny. Speaking about the other side of that, Notre Dame and SC, winner is alive. The loser, quite frankly, is dead. Two teams, especially SC, expected to contend.